Welcome. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have a special guest. I call him the King of Twitter. This is Mr. Josiah Johnson at King Josiah on Twitter and on all social media. Josiah, how's it going, buddy?
Good, Jeff. How you doing today, man? Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to come speak with me. I know you got a lot of good things going on, and I want to speak about that. Obviously, we're going to talk some basketball, talk some of your producer credits and things like that. But before we get into that, I just want, for the people who don't know who you are, what some of the things that you do, just tell me about, growing up, playing basketball, playing for UCLA, and having a dad to play in the NBA.
Josiah Johnson. I do a little bit of everything. People think it's Twitter, but it ain't just Twitter. It's a lot of different things. Writer and producer by trade. Do a ton of stuff in the social space. Ton of consulting. Work with a lot of different companies. Born in Trenton, New Jersey, but moved to LA when I was a little kid, and spent a large portion of my life out here, like you mentioned. Was blessed and fortunate to be able to get a basketball scholarship to UCLA. Was a pretty good basketball player coming out of high school. Got to college and realized I wasn't as good as I thought, but that opened up the avenues and doorways for me to do a lot of different stuff in the entertainment industry. So, been a producer since 2005 when I graduated. Worked from everybody from NFL Network to Fox Sports to Showtime, Complex, Yahoo Sports. Currently working for Wave Sports Entertainment now, in addition to Fubo TV. And, just did the show on Netflix with Colin Kaepernick and Ava DuVernay and Michael Starberry. So try to just stay as busy as possible, man. I got a family to feed, so I try to keep these kids well fed.
That's awesome, man. It's so crazy to hear you say those kind of things because I just, even me personally, I didn't know all of that. I didn't know that you had done all those previous credits. Now I know your current credits that you're doing now, but I knew about basketball. I knew your dad played NBA. But I didn't know all that other stuff. All that other stuff, beforehand. Just what is it about yourself? Do you think that the push on social media kind of shine the light on you and shine the light on some of the things that you're doing currently?
Yeah, I tell a lot of people. Everybody asks me when they're trying to get in the entertainment industry and trying to get in social spaces. And the one thing I try to stress to them is build your own network. Mm-hmm. Use the resources that are available to you, social media, to build your brand. If you notice, I don't use Twitter the way a lot of people use Twitter. I use it for branding and just to build my business and to create opportunities for myself. So I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do that. But the most important thing is being able to grow a following and figuring out, strategizing and conceptualizing, figuring out how you want to build the lane that you're in. If you're in sports, obviously you're going to put a lot of content that reflects that. If you're in entertainment, music, you're going to, lean into things that reflect those different areas of interest. But for me, just leveraging that and using that. And, when I first came into the game, I'm sure I share a lot of similar experience to a lot of people. It's really tough to get your foot in the door. Obviously, my dad played in the NBA, and I had a lot of connections and networking ability. But even with all that, you talk to anybody who's a writer, producer in the game, and they stress how difficult it is to get shows bought, to get projects bought. So, coming out of UCLA and after a few years working in the sports entertainment industry, was able to sell a show to Comedy Central called Legends of Chamberlain Heights that was based off my experiences riding the end of the bench at UCLA along with a couple of buddies of mine, and got a kind of glimpse into what the Hollywood world is. A lot of the positive stuff, but a lot of negative stuff as well. So, after that show ended, opportunities weren't really there. So I was like, look, I can either sit around and wait for opportunities to come that may never come, or I can go create my own opportunities. So I just use social as a lane and as a resource to get my name out there, get my brand out there. Now, I'm doing all types of amazing stuff, working with everybody from Turner Sports, doing, NBA Twitter live shows with Channing Frye and Taylor Rooks, to working with Gilbert Arenas and Fubo, to hosting my own shows, and, just doing a lot of cool stuff, working with tons of brands and helping them with, promotion and things like that. So just, we have all these resources available to us. As long as you got a phone and an internet connection or a computer or whatever, it's got some decent enough Wi-Fi, you can build your own brand. And the one thing I always stress is it's not going to be easy. People see me now, see the level I'm at now, see the following now, don't realize I started my account at zero just like everybody else, but started to learn, ways to build my brand and build my name and just creatively try to just lean into those things. And it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of flows, good times, bad times, positive, getting just ripped apart by the internet from some things, getting a lot of praise for others. So It's definitely been on the right track, right trajectory. So as long as that keeps going, I'm gonna keep riding this wave.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to King Josiah Johnson. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Josiah, talk to me about Colin in Black and White. Talk to me about, the episode that you did, kind of how that opportunity came about and what it was like to tell that story, because that's one of the most powerful pieces Netflix has put out in quite some time.
Well, we appreciate you for checking it out. So that came about really through Legends of Chamberlain Heights. So created that show. Michael Starberry was a co-creator on that show, was a writer, producer. I like to call him the LeBron of writing. Just I'm that maybe on social, but him in the writing game. So we created Legends of Chamberlain Heights together. He reached out to me. This was probably like early 2019. Like, look, I'm developing the show with Ava and Colin Kaepernick. He knew how much of a football fan I was. I worked at the NFL Network for a number of years. I'm a Raiders fan, but I joked that Colin Kaepernick.
Same. I'm a Raiders guy too. Hey, shout out to that.
But Kaepernick's the only guy that'll have me rocking the Niners jersey. And I rocked it in support of just his plight and his mission and everything he was doing. So I was a big fan of his before working on the show. Then, Starberry reached out, gave me the opportunity to work on the show. Ava approved me and allowed me to be a part of the project. And just to be able to work with Starberry and Ava and Cap and just the entire crew and our entire writing team, just so many brilliant, talented writers. I think of, Raynell Swilling, Terry Schaefer, Evan Ball, Natasha Trotter, Maisha Miller, and Raul Martin, who all were a part of this project heavy, every day in the writer's room kind of cranking this stuff out. But working with Colin and his team and just being able to tell good stories. And I think a lot of people, when this project first came out, they didn't really have an understanding of what it was going to be. But we really leaned into Colin's high school years, which are very formative in producing the man that he is today. And just to be able to tell those stories. And, a lot of people, chastise him and criticize him and say, hey, well, you grew up, you were adopted by a white family. You had this great life. And, some of that is very true, but there's also other elements of it, I think, that we all experience being Black in America that you can't run or hide from no matter where you're at. And, Colin grew up in Turlock, California. People here in California, obviously we're predominantly blue state. We vote blue heavily, but there's definitely areas and pockets that don't share their same viewpoints. So Turlock definitely, Central California, an area in a region where, a lot of those same viewpoints maybe aren't expressed. So Colin dealt with a lot of different things growing up that I think was amazing for us to be able to get the opportunity to tell a story and to show people that, the man he's become was largely influenced by his experiences in high school and helping shape him who he is. And for me personally, to get the opportunity to write an episode, I drew on a lot of my own experience, kind of with Colin. Colin wasn't heavily recruited. He was heavily recruited in baseball. Baseball wasn't his favorite sport. He wanted to play football, didn't really get a football scholarship offer to play quarterback till, late in the game. I think the late signing period, from Nevada, Reno. So just having those opportunities and kind of holding out and not knowing what's going to happen and just dealing with that pain and that torment. So for me, it was an episode that really hit close to home. And then Romare Bearden, who's one of my favorite artists. My dad actually had some of his works as a kid. And I remember as a kid just staring at his works and just being fascinated by him. And just, once we dug deep and learned his story and learned how, he had a semi-pro baseball career, had an opportunity to go to the major leagues, but was asked to pass as white. And he refused to do that and kind of where that path led him. So one of the things we really try to, hammer home in that show is that, a lot of people look at Colin as a quarterback. We want to show that he's more than a quarterback. And, maybe the things you start out as aren't what you finish as. So sometimes in life, people try to push you to a certain, direction. And that may not be where your life ultimately goes. You can alter that and change, and really just showing the power that he had in himself all along that maybe he didn't realize how to harness, but now he knows how to use it. So just being able to work on that project with such an incredible team, and Ava, who's just, one of the most talented, a genius, when you talk about just brilliance and her ability, she was working on like 3 or 4 or 5 shows at the time, all hitters, from Queen Sugar. She got Naomi that's coming out on CW, and all these juggling all these projects, but being super attentive, super locked in with everything, and just demanding the highest level of excellence out of herself and ourselves. So I think it made the project just, that much better.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I want to ask you about a particular thing, and then we'll leave the show alone. But I do want to ask you about a specific moment in the show, and it was the NFL draft moment. Okay. I know it was the part where they talked about the slave auctions and how they kind of showed them off like that. Like, what was it like going through that writing room, being in that writing room when you're writing a scene like that can come off to some people as offensive or kind of come off a certain kind of way? Just take me, if you can, take me to that writing room when you guys kind of decided to make that happen.
So just a little background on myself. As I mentioned, I work at the NFL Network, from 2005 to 2015, worked actually a lot of combines while I was at NFL Network. And I think that was one thing that even, people, the combine organizers in the NFL strive to change that appearance. Back in the day, they used to have the weigh-in. They used to air that on camera, very similar to a slave auction. These men are ushered up. half naked onto a stage where, you only see the camera angle. Behind then, there's about 300, 400 people in the room, predominantly white coaches, execs, GMs, eating soggy donuts and coffee and just staring at these guys and commenting on their hips and their ankles and how strong they are and how the bodies. And even, talking with Colin in his own experiences where they do physicals and they're poking and prodding and looking for any defects and things like that. So I think that was the comparison we were trying to talk. We were basically trying to draw. Obviously, people on the conservative side got a hold of that, and they were trying to get some clout and run their numbers up. So went far-fetched. But this is something been heavily documented, researched. Numerous articles have been written on it. Even the NFL itself acknowledged that they wanted to humanize. So, if you want to humanize something, that means that it's been dehumanized. So these aren't, this wasn't as controversial as people try to make it out to be. But naturally, those same people, those same people who talk about, all lives matter and all that stuff, and all lives, matter until we talk about Black lives. All lives matter until, blue lives matter until we talk about storming a Capitol on January 6th and trying to overthrow a government after, somebody loses a fair and free election and democracy reigns. So, you're even seeing it nowadays with just recently Travis Hunter obviously flipping from Florida State to Jackson State, and some people saying that that's the worst decision he can make and how dare he and this and that. When it's coincidentally, a lot of these big football programs didn't really integrate to 60s, 70s, some of them even the 80s. So you look at these big programs now with these Black athletes been able to do and how off their backs and free labor has built these, large facilities, multi-million-dollar stadiums and all this good stuff. And it's very comical now to even see kind of the NIL thing. And you have coaches who are making $8, $9, $10 million talking about how that's going to ruin the sport. But the sport was fine when they were getting their $10 million off the backs of Black labor. So, when you talk about these things, it's like I'll have that discussion with anybody. So people obviously want to gain clout and they want to paint the thing negatively. But if you look at what we said in the comparison we drew, we compared the NFL Combine to aspects of a slave auction, which was very accurate, very factual. So we'll defend that to the highest level. I don't think, anybody, if you look at the people who were complaining about it and look at their track record and the things they speak up about and the things they don't speak up about, I think it's very telling.
Yes, absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Josiah Johnson at King Josiah, all on social medias. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, guys. Now, I love that explanation because you're exactly right. And I was gonna ask you about the Travis Hunter thing because Travis Hunter, like you said, is the #1 player in the country. He just decided to go to an HBCU, and you saw people throw fits. He has set National Signing Day on fire simply because he decided to go play in front of his people for a coach that looks like him in front of 60,000 fans that kind of look like him, and that upset the apple cart in a lot of ways. And you touched on a lot of those points, but I do want to talk some basketball, and I want to talk about, you talked about your time at UCLA. You played with some great players that are now, played in the NBA and now coaches and things like that. Were you talked about not really playing a lot, and you kind of flipped that into a show. But at the time when you thought you were a good basketball player, you go to UCLA, you play with these guys that end up playing 10, 15 years in the NBA and coaching the NBA and stuff like that. What was your headspace during that time? Were you kind of sad? Did you ever think about transferring, leaving? How was that experience?
It's definitely a depressing experience, but I think we in the Black community, we can use humor and satire and comedy as a coping mechanism. So it was a lot of humor, a lot of comedy. I focused heavily on academics. I think I was like 3-time Academic Achievement Award winner on the team. So I really leaned into that and just tried to be as good of a teammate as possible. Honestly, when I look back, I played with, I think, about 13 to 15 guys who played at the NBA at some point in their career. Wow. So it just wasn't meant to be for that point. But, I went league in something else. A lot of those guys, can't do what I do on the other side. So it definitely balances out in life. But it's a tough situation when you're showing up at games, you're doing all the exact same things everybody else is doing. Then on game day, you're not necessarily getting the playing time that you feel like you want or deserve. I did ponder transferring, but obviously UCLA, my dad went there. My brother went there. I literally went to elementary school on the campus of UCLA. So I spent my whole life pretty much, began my education there, finished my education there. But, just at the end of the day, I realized that, going pro and doing that whole thing, my older brother played overseas for a number of years. And we joke about it. He's very, he's a social butterfly. He can go anywhere and make friends anywhere and be and really live these great experiences. I'm more introverted. So I would have been in those countries just chilling in my apartment, not going anywhere, maybe playing video games, watching movies. And it just wasn't a life. I would see him leave for 7-8 months a year, then come back. And it was always, great when he came back. We'd have great summers. We'd work out together, do a bunch of stuff. But it was a tough experience for him to be away so long. And this was back in the day where, email was the main mode of communication, maybe instant messenger. But it wasn't like nowadays where you got the, cell phone technology and service like this. So you could be anywhere on the planet really and be able to still kind of, do things like this and communicate with people. We didn't really have those luxuries. So after when I was in school, the writing was on the wall pretty early on. Definitely worked hard, definitely tried to do those things, but also started making, preparations for my next move in life. And that's where I've been blessed and fortunate to be in the position I'm in and now, doing a bunch of cool stuff in the entertainment space, but also developed a ton of relationships and friendships with people, guys that went on to the pros. I think about people like Matt Barnes, who's a teammate of mine for 2 years at UCLA, went on to have an amazing NBA career. People like Ryan Hollins, people like, Westbrook was a little bit after us, but we definitely hung out with him and just, so happy and so proud of things he's doing. Trevor Ariza, another teammate of mine at UCLA, who's playing with the Lakers now, hoping he can get healthy soon, get back out there and get some buckets and help right the ship. But it was a great experience. Wouldn't trade anything for it. Had some great coaches in Steve Lavin for my first 3 years, and then Ben Howland for my last 2. And just a ton of close friends, people I'm still close with to this day. So wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah, didn't in the best way, but at the end of the day, that's how life is, and you make the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now now we have to talk about Twitter. You're one of the best. You are the best follow on Twitter. Let me not say one of the best.
I appreciate it.
Give you that. You're the best follow on Twitter. If you don't, make sure you follow at King Josiah 54. You have the best. They're the most timely, and they're the best. And when it comes to social references, cultural references, when did you kind of get into Twitter? Kind of get that buzz in Twitter, and when did you find like, man, I'm actually pretty good at this kind of stuff, like just making great content?
Well, coming up, man, I really hated social media. When I say hate, I don't mean, I just didn't like using it. I felt like it was a waste of time. Didn't really see the value in it. But I really leaned into it when I had the show on Comedy Central, Legends of Chamberlain Heights. Just saw ways that shows like Insecure and Game of Thrones, South Park, even Key and Peele had really built up a large social following. And for me, social is kind of the great equalizer because you can be doing it anywhere, Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't really the luxury of somebody like yourself to be able to do a show like this where, you could just reach out via a platform or medium like Twitter to have these type of things happen. The same thing for me. And I just saw the way that people could touch each other and reach each other, and you didn't have to be in the same location. And, I work in the entertainment industry. So, a lot of times I want to meet and connect with writers, producers, showrunners. And it's a difficult thing to do because obviously you're emailing people, you're cold calling, whatever. They don't really know who you are. But now I can make these people come to me just by being able to utilize social, putting out great content, giving people a lens and a vantage point into the way I move, the way I think, the way I operate. So really started using Twitter like 2015, 2016-ish with the show. Was leaning heavily, built the show account, at its height to close to like 100,000 followers. And just after the show got canceled, realized that, damn, I should have focused the energy and attention on my own account and on my own stuff. And I like Twitter because for me, it's like I get to operate in a vacuum. When you deal in the entertainment industry, you deal with a lot of executive notes and a lot of people giving their opinions, a lot of different things. And sometimes those opinions are awesome, sometimes they're not. But either way, they're putting the money up. You got to listen. Where when you're running your own social account, you have that creative freedom to do whatever you want. And that's a great thing. And it could be a negative thing sometimes too, because sometimes the things you're putting out aren't hitting like you want them to. But it also teaches you, and you learn how to use the platforms to your benefit. So really leaned into social, especially Twitter, after the show got canceled. And, for me, I think the biggest moment where I was like, okay, man, I might have a future in this thing is probably like 2019. Antonio Brown had just got with the Patriots, and I used a meme from Get Out. I basically took a scene. It was basically him meeting Josh Gordon, and it's a scene from Get Out where they're at the like the little lunch thing, and Lakeith Stanfield's character's in the sunken place, and he meets with them and sees it. So I used that. Jordan Peele actually ended up seeing it. Quote tweeted, gave me a ton of love, a ton of praise, follow me. We ended up having a little DM combo after that. I kind of slid in his DMs and just told him thank you so much. I had a show at Comedy Central. He had a show at Comedy Central, but I just wanted to thank him for being able to blaze a trail, create opportunities for people like myself. But that's the one thing, if you're using social as a place to network, a place to grow and build your following, whatever industry or lane you're in, and you put out content that people can gravitate towards, it'll open up and create a lot of opportunities for you. So once I started seeing those things happen, I really leaned into it. Now, like I said, I've been really blessed to be able to grow my following and create opportunities for myself that wouldn't have been available. And I'm not delusional by any stretch of the imagination. So I know if I didn't have this following, I wouldn't get a lot of opportunities that I get. So I realize now that the more I build it, the more opportunities, creative freedom, and just, opportunities to support myself, sustain my career, and live the life that I want to live.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I have to ask you, because you do have such a great Twitter following and you put out some funny stuff. Has it ever gotten you into, like, I'm not gonna say some trouble, whatever made it caused a problem with somebody or athlete, and were you able to, like, has that ever happened with some of the stuff that you make?
So I used to be real out of pocket, and but I know, and I'll just be admittedly real out of pocket with the stuff. Obviously, created some issues. Definitely got blocked by some big name athletes and people who weren't the biggest fans of the stuff I was doing. But as I've gotten older, more mature, and just realized that especially I think mental health is a big important issue nowadays. Mm-hmm. Is that these people are humans too. So coming at them from a lane that's respectful, obviously getting the jokes off, but getting jokes off in a manner that when they're in the locker room with each other, they'll actually share these jokes with each other and laugh too and be in on it, as opposed to, me kind of, picking on them. I think that, when you look on Twitter, especially, there's so many burner and troll accounts and so much negativity on the space that I try to just be as positive as possible, try to be as uplifting as possible, and really just try to be a light and a beacon for people trying to follow my footsteps, to show them that, look, if I can do this, you can do it too. Like, yeah, I think I'm smart and intelligent, all those great things like everybody does. But, this isn't reinventing the wheel here. So there's lanes and ways for other people to now be able to, again, I go back to you doing a show like this. You're creating your own lane and opportunity for yourself. You might have, maybe pitched a show to people and they might not have seen the vision, but you go do it yourself, and then they see it and they don't have to see the vision anymore because they're seeing you actually do it. So, most important thing is just kind of building your brand, leveraging your following, whatever level it is. I don't care if you got one follower or a million. If you got one, get to two. If you got two, get to four. Just keep building and growing and just stay positive, focus on where you're at now, and then also look to where you want to be in the future.
Yes. Now, once again, we're talking to Josiah Johnson at King Josiah on all socials. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Josiah, I have to ask you about, because I know you talk about you love football, but you also know a lot of basketball players, with hoops, and you work with Gilbert Arenas on the No Chill Gil podcast. What's that like? What's it like talking ball with Gilbert, who's, like, I think one of the smartest basketball minds in all of any of these spaces? What's that like working with the No Chill Gil podcast?
Gilbert is a genius, basketball savant, but even just life. And I think, he's had some unfortunate situations early in his life that I feel like, cause people to look at him unfavorably and paint this negative picture of him. But just getting an opportunity to work with him, hear him speak, he's just so smart, so versed. It's funny. We were talking and, he was telling me about his high school days. We actually went to high school not too far away from each other. We actually live a block away from each other now. So back in the day, I'd exercise around the neighborhood. I see him driving around. We'd always kind of just give each other the what's up, but together to reconnect. But we were talking, and we were both like took AP English in high school, and just things like you wouldn't expect when you think about athletes, in this space. And
yeah,
just an intelligent guy, articulate, funny, got great jokes, great insights, great takes. So it's been a blessing, man, to get the opportunity to work with him. We had some great guests in there. We just did an interview with Michael Vick a couple of days ago that I'm super excited about. But Gil is just an amazing basketball mind. He needs to be working for a team as a GM. Obviously I know he doesn't want to get into coaching, but he'd be a phenomenal coach just because he's done it, and the way he thinks and his rationale and just how intelligent he is and how he approaches situations and how outside the box and unconventional his thinking is. It's an amazing thing for me to be around. I fashion myself as a funny guy, right? But just being around him, he's got me cracking up all the time. And just his takes is, he's brash. He'll say whatever. He's unfiltered. And a lot of people think they're unfiltered, but when you kick it around Gil, there is no filter with the things he says and does. So really, really, really the opportunity came up a couple months ago to join him on the show. I jumped at it, and I think we've done like 10, 12 episodes together now. So I'm just want to keep this thing going, man, and super excited to be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Josiah, you do the No Chill Gil. You did the Colin Kaepernick thing. What can your fans and everybody expect from you moving forward? What's some of the projects that you can speak on, working on, and what's some of the great things that we know that we can expect from Josiah Johnson?
I'm just developing a bunch of different stuff, a lot of stuff in the works. I think, as I've said previously, even myself, who's, carved a lane and built up a strong following, I know there's a lot more I need to go to get to be able to, because my thing now is like, when I have a good idea, I don't want any interference. I want people just to get down with it and understand it. And you, as you can imagine, that still doesn't happen a lot. So really trying to just grow the brand, grow the following, do things how I want to do it. But got some shows in the work, got a lot of different projects I'm excited about. And just going to keep working hard, man. Doing a ton of stuff on the entertainment side, but also doing a ton of stuff on the social side. And like I said, just building that following out, doing a lot of great stuff now. So just trying to build on that and elevate, but always working. That's the most important thing. That's the thing I really stress and strive to do all the time. Just keep working, keep building, and keep growing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Josiah, man, I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day for speaking with me and my audience. Once again, this is Josiah Johnson. It's King Josiah on all socials. Like I said, he's the best follow on Twitter. You can go check that out. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. There'll be something that'll happen by the time you see this, that he'll already have a meme or a tweet or something up that responds to it and that's reaction to it. Josiah, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Peace.